Hi and welcome to the channel. In this video I'm gonna talk about how to change your speedometer cable on a Volkswagen T3 T25 Vanagon of the late model, and it's a two-wheel drive. This video will not be so professionally made, but it will be informative. So let's get going. This car is from 1990, so it's a late model. And I had issues with the speedometer. The speedometer is sitting here in the gauge cluster, it's that one there. And the needle has been like doing that for actually years. I think the problem started back in 2014, so that's like 8 years ago. But now it has got severely worse. It started making a lot of bad sound, and I decided I have to fix it urgently because I'm going on a road trip quite soon. So the gauge cluster is sitting here, and I cannot show you now every detail about that. You pop off the covering here, and then you unscrew 4 screws and you disconnect these connectors here. Actually, you can probably do this job without removing this instrument, but I chose to do that because it was just easier for me, and I had some other stuff to do here as well. So the speedometer is disconnected here, and this is actually the new cable, and it's this squeeze type, so you just squeeze it and it will come off here. I've seen another video on YouTube where a guy takes it off without removing this instrument thing. And anyway, the speedometer then goes down into a hole which you cannot see, but it's right there. So this side doesn't prevent any difficulties. Then the speedometer goes down, the cable goes down in the front of the car, and it's gonna come out here over and behind the spare wheel, and I'm not gonna show that now because I actually tore it off without taking this off, because I cut the cable. I'll tell you why I cut it very in short time. But I haven't done this yet, but I've seen in another YouTube video that you need to open the grill, which is an easy task. You just unscrew, I think it's just 2 screws here, and then you can pull off and flip this forward, and then you can access that hole from the inside here, and also maybe something which is further down. And the spare wheel, you unscrew this bolt here, and then you just drop the spare wheel. It's nothing difficult. And this is the first time I did this job, and I didn't know exactly how to do it, and I still don't, but the speedometer cable is connected to the front left wheel, at least on the two-wheel drive, which I have. I don't have the synchro version. So the speedometer comes here, the cable comes here, and it goes into, let me see, that hole there. That thing there is not a hole, it's just something. And this hole is actually the whole story. Because it was very, very difficult for me to get the cable out. And that's the whole thing here, actually. So as you can see, I've removed the wheel. And I've also removed the brake disc and the brake caliper. And I found out, I removed the disc and the caliper because I thought that would give me better access to the hub, which was not the case. I took it off and it didn't help. But it did help because I got better access to work here, because it was a hell to get the cable out. So I was working a lot here, and that the disc not being here made it easier. So if you also want to remove the caliper or learn how to remove the caliper and the disc, it's very easy. The first thing you do, that's the top part of the caliper. It's very easy. It's sitting only with 2 screws that looks like that. I think it's 13 millimeter. I actually took them away with a 1/2 inch wrench. And then you keep, this is the bottom part. You need to keep these loose sitting bolts. You need to keep that one steady, and it's a 19 millimeter. This one here, it's very rusty, but I could remove it. I just keep that still because this is in the air, it's loose. And then you unscrew those screws, and when you do that, you can pry off the yoke or whatever it's called, this brake caliper. And then what's left is of course the disc and this thing here, which is a massive piece of metal, and that's screwed. This thing is screwed with those 2 bolts that you can see with the fine threads. It's screwed in these 2 big holes. And these bolts are 22 millimeters. And it was a headache to get them off because I don't have any power tools, at least no power tools that I could use here, because it's sitting like that, and even with the steering wheel turned in my favorable direction, it was very difficult. But I had this with a strong socket and this piece of tube metal pipe, and that one I got it to a certain angle here because it was very difficult to get it outside the wheelhouse here, or whatever you say, this arc. But I just barely got it outside with that what would you call it, like a, to make this thing longer, because I could absolutely not loosen the bolts with just this, which is like more than a foot long, or like 35 centimeters. And I don't have any power tools, as I said. But with the help of this, I was able to take these bolts off eventually. And it took that this six pointed Allen, whatever it's called, that it was sitting in a certain way. Because if it was sitting like 1 notch the other way, I couldn't get this in the right angle. But if I just moved it one point, so to speak, then I got this in the right angle, and I could apply this thing here. Okay, so but then I removed this, and I could remove the brake disc, which was not necessary because I could access this point anyway, but I found out that only later. But it was a good thing. Now I know how to remove this, and I will learn how to tighten this nut here, but that's for another video. The whole problem was that these are the remains of the old speedometer cable. Now it's in several pieces because I cut it, and I pried these ones out from the covering, so it's not as many as you think. It's only one. But thing is that it comes here, and it was sitting in that hole there, and it has also a rubber bushing there, like a thing to make it tight and not leaking water inside and whatever. And now, as you can see, the hole is nice. I can push it outside and in again. But the problem was that this cable had been sitting here for 33 years, since the car was new in 1989, and it was stuck like hell. And this is actually the speedometer cable end point. The end point, which comes out here. And the problem was that I just couldn't pull it out inwards to in that direction, which is the proper direction. And there you see it sticking out. It's rotating with the hubcap, and thus gives the speed to the gauge cluster, whatever. So what did I mean, there is a secret here. Because I was like, I was like hitting here with various tools, like the hammer and various pieces of cylindrical metal here to punch the damn thing in and out. But the problem was that it didn't fucking move. It didn't want to come out with anything. And I was like hitting here with different tools inside. I'll show you how it's... I can show you with this file here. After a while, it's hitting solid metal. So as much as I was banging with a hammer, it didn't come out. And I had no idea why I was hitting solid metal. So I was actually despairing. This whole thing took me way more than half an hour of fierce fighting to get this damn thing out of that hole. And I pried the rubber thing out as best as I could with pliers, but to no avail, it didn't help much. And eventually I understood that it will never come out that way. I have to cut the cable and try to force it out or push it out that way. And that's what I did. So I have this very serious cable cutting tool here, which is a professional thing for cutting very serious stuff. Yeah, and I cut the cable right about here. And lo and behold, I started trying to force the damn thing the other direction in that hole. And yeah, eventually, after much work, it did came out. Bit by bit, it came out here. And I just didn't understand why this damn thing didn't come through. But when it came out here, I kind of understood, because it had a lot of this plastic covering, the outside layer protective thing. It was totally trashed. Now I think I threw it all away, but it was totally trashed, and that probably braked the cable, so to speak, to come out the proper way. It didn't want to come out because it was getting stuck in a serious way. So yeah, it did come out, but the whole secret is that this hole is not straight with this hub or the spindle or whatever it's called. This is straight. This is definitely straight. But when the hole continues in this metal thing here, the spindle, it's not straight. This hole is actually bending. It's bent in here. And that's why I couldn't punch it through that way, because the thing I was punching with eventually hit solid metal in here, in the spindle. And how could I know that this channel is not straight but bent? There was no way in hell I could know that when I started this work, because I couldn't know that, and there was no information on YouTube. I looked for every video. That's why I'm making this video. And I also have a few books and about the car, and they don't say anything about this. So normally this cable would just come out here with a little force, I guess, but mine didn't come with nothing. I pried with everything I had and it didn't budge. So the whole secret is that this hole is not straight, the channel is not straight, it's bent like a banana, and it becomes straight here. But there's like a few centimeters here that are... maybe it is bent also in this one. I don't know. I don't care actually, but it is bent here in this brown rusty metal thing. Maybe for a couple of centimeters or something. Anyway, so that's what you have to do if you don't get this cable out. You have to cut, like I did. I couldn't get it out. I had to cut the cable, which is full of metal, by the way. It wasn't easy to cut it, not even with this very strong tool. It's full of metal, this thing. And anyway, you have to force it out that way, and it is bent. So that was the whole secret. Now I have cleaned up this hole, and I'm gonna clean it up even more. And I have this file here, and I'm like cleaning it up, making sure there is no debris or rust or stuff that's gonna be in the way. I have been like sucking it with my vacuum cleaner, and I'm gonna blow it also with my compressed air, and also this outer area I'm cleaning up like this, and with various techniques. So then we get to the final thing. which is that I have a new cable that I ordered very quickly because I'm kind of in a hurry. The brand is called Fania. It's made in Brazil. I ordered it from here in Sweden where I live. And yeah, it's, yeah, nothing much to see, but it seems to be the correct one. This one has a hole because when you punch it through the hubcap, you need to lock it with a washer. Actually, it's supposed to be a special washer, like a clip, but I don't have that, so I have just a circular washer, and then I have to put some steel thread through that hole and make like a little knot for it to stay there. And this is the other way, the other end. So that's the whole story. It isn't a very professional video, but it is informative. And as I said, you don't have to take the caliper off or the brake disc, but it does help if you need to work a lot here, which I had to do. And by the way, this is the rubber bushing, which is supposed to sit in the hole. Where is the hole? There it is. So I ordered this separately. It was like 8 crowns. That's like less than $1 and less than €1. So this one is gonna sit there and make it tight. And yeah, that's the whole story. I made this video because I didn't find any other video on YouTube about how to actually change this speedometer cable. I found some other videos about the gauge cluster and that it might be a problem up there. I don't know if this speedometer cable change is gonna help with the actual problem, but I do think so, because the old speedometer cable looked very worn in the top, so I guess it will definitely not get worse after changing it. And yeah, now I'm about to put the new stuff on. I hope you found this video somewhat informative. I'm sorry it's not professionally made, but I'm not a professional YouTuber, I'm just a dude living here. And one final thing, as you can see, I have a very serious jack. It's 3 tons. And I have supported the car with that very strong tripod. And that's what you should do also if you're gonna work anywhere under the car or in the wheel arcs. Thanks for viewing. Have a nice day. Bye bye.